The camera panned across the brightly lit set of The View, catching the smiling faces of the hosts before settling on the special guest chair. Gwen Stefani sat poised, her platinum blonde hair falling in perfect waves over the shoulders of a shimmering silver jacket. The studio audience applauded as Whoopi Goldberg's warm voice welcomed her. "Everybody, please give it up for Grammy Award-winning artist, fashion icon, and the voice coach, Gwen Stefani." The crowd erupted in cheers, some fans even standing to wave. Gwen flashed her signature smile, waving back before leaning toward the table. "Hi guys, thanks for having me," she said, her voice sweet but slightly reserved. Sunny Hostin leaned in first. "Gwen, you've been in this business for decades. From your days in No Doubt to your solo career and now your work on The Voice, you've done it all. What's been the secret to keeping that momentum?" Gwen's eyes lit up. "Honestly, it's just doing what I love, writing music, performing, and being creative. I'm still that same girl who wrote, just a girl, in her bedroom. I just have a bigger closet now," she joked, earning laughs from the table. But before the laughter faded, Joy Behar spoke up. She leaned forward, elbows on the table, eyes narrowing with a playful but unmistakably sharp glint. "You know, Gwen," Joy began, "people talk a lot about how you've reinvented yourself over the years. Some might even say you've changed quite a bit since getting together with Blake Shelton. What do you say to people who think you're not the same Gwen you used to be?" The question hung in the air, heavier than the usual morning chatter. Gwen's smile stiffened ever so slightly. She tilted her head, a subtle signal she was choosing her words carefully. "Well," Gwen replied, keeping her tone light, "I think we all change, right? That's just life. I'm still me. I've just grown." Joy's lips curled in the faintest smirk. Sure, but some folks miss the old, edgy Gwen from the ska punk days. You know, the girl in cargo pants with pink hair who'd never sing a country duet." The audience let out a few uneasy chuckles. Gwen's eyes flickered toward Whoopi, who was already sensing the undercurrent. "I love every era of my career," Gwen said, voice firm but polite. "But I'm not here to be stuck in 1995. I'm here to keep creating." Sunny quickly jumped back in with a question about Gwen's latest single, trying to steer the conversation into safer waters, but the spark of tension between Joy and Gwen had already been lit. The studio lights seemed brighter now, almost harsh, as Sunny's question about Gwen's new single faded into the background. Gwen was mid-sentence, describing the creative process behind her latest track, when Joy leaned forward again, resting her chin in her hand like a cat about to pounce. "That's all well and good," Joy said, waving dismissively, "but don't you think your music's softer now? Less edgy? I mean, let's face it, this isn't Don't Speak Gwen anymore. Some people think you've traded your originality for, well," she gave a pointed glance toward the audience, "for romance." A few in the crowd laughed nervously, unsure if they were supposed to. Gwen blinked, her smile gone now. "Romance," she repeated, a slight incredulous laugh in her tone. "Joy, I write what I feel. Music's not supposed to be frozen in one time period. I can't keep singing the same songs, wearing the same pants, pretending I'm still 20. Joy shrugged with exaggerated innocence. "I'm just saying. Some fans loved that raw, rebellious energy. Now you've got glitter, ballads, and cowboy hats. It's a different vibe." The audience let out a soft, ooh, sensing the jab. Gwen shifted in her chair, crossing one leg over the other, her silver jacket catching the light. "You know what's funny? People call it different, like that's a bad thing. I call it growth. I've lived, I've had kids, I've fallen in love again. That's my truth now. Isn't that what artists are supposed to do? Reflect where they are in life?" The other hosts exchanged quick, tight smiles, clearly aware this was veering into choppy waters. But Joy didn't let up. "Sure, but sometimes fans feel like they lose the person they connected with. And in your case," she paused, letting the moment stretch, "it just looks like Blake's had a pretty big influence on, well, everything." Gwen's lips parted slightly, her eyes narrowing for just a fraction of a second before her expression returned to composed. "Blake hasn't changed me. If anything, he's supported me. I make my own choices, Joy. Always have." Joy leaned back with a chuckle, but her eyes were still sharp. Sounds like someone's a little defensive. The air seemed to tighten in the room. A low murmur ran through the audience. Gwen's hand, resting on the table, curled slightly into a fist, an unspoken sign that the conversation was starting to get personal. Whoopi shot a quick glance to the producer off camera, signaling they might need to step in. But no one interrupted. The spark had been lit, and everyone could feel the fire building. The table felt smaller now, as if the tension was physically pushing everyone closer together. Gwen adjusted the cuff of her silver jacket, her eyes locked on Joy like a singer squaring up to a heckler. Defensive, Gwen repeated, her voice measured but with an edge that carried. I'm passionate about my art. There's a difference. Joy smirked, tilting her head. Passionate is good, but you know me, Gwen, if you can't handle the heat, the view might not be the kitchen for you. A ripple of, ooh, swept through the audience. Whoopi let out a long sigh, leaning back in her chair like a referee watching two fighters ignore the bell. I'm not here to handle heat, Gwen shot back, leaning forward now. I came here to talk about my music, my tour, my creative work. Not to be told I'm somehow less authentic because my life doesn't look the same as it did when I was 25. Sunny jumped in quickly. I think what Joy's trying to say is. I know exactly what Joy's trying to say, Gwen interrupted, her tone sharper now. And it's insulting. The room went still. The audience wasn't just watching a talk show anymore, they were watching a standoff. Joy didn't blink. Hey, if you're insulted by a question, maybe that says more about you than me. Gwen let out a short, humorless laugh. Or maybe it says you like to push buttons for ratings. The audience reacted loudly to that one, some clapping, others gasping. The tension had officially spilled over the edge. Whoopi leaned forward, trying to diffuse the situation. Okay, ladies, let's remember, this is daytime TV, not a UFC fight. But neither seemed ready to let go. Joy tapped the table lightly with her hand. Look, Gwen, people come here and we ask them the questions the audience is thinking. If that's too much, it's not too much, Gwen cut in, her voice rising for the first time. It's too disrespectful. There's a difference between a question and an accusation dressed up as curiosity. The camera operator instinctively zoomed in on Gwen's face, her jaw tight, her eyes bright with controlled anger. Across from her, Joy sat with a calm, almost smug expression, like she'd gotten exactly the reaction she wanted. The audience was completely silent now. Everyone knew, this wasn't over. The silence in the studio was so sharp it almost hummed. You could hear the faint buzz of the cameras, the distant shuffle of crew members shifting nervously behind them. Gwen sat motionless. For a beat, her fingers drumming once on the table before she spoke. You know what, Joy? She said finally, her voice low but unwavering. I've been in this business long enough to know when a conversation has turned into something ugly. And this, she motioned vaguely to the table, isn't about music anymore. Joy leaned back in her chair, her lips pressed into a thin smile. Oh, come on, Gwen, don't be so sensitive. You're acting like I attacked you. You did attack me, Gwen snapped, her voice suddenly carrying across the studio. You've been picking apart my choices, my style, my relationships, on my press day. Do you have any idea how disrespectful that is? The audience erupted in murmurs. Someone near the front actually gasped out loud. Whoopi tried again, her hands raised slightly. Okay, let's just take a breath. But Gwen wasn't breathing. She was done. Her chair scraped loudly against the floor as she pushed it back, the sound slicing through the air like a warning shot. She stood, adjusting her silver jacket with quick, decisive movements. I came here to talk about my art. Instead, I've been insulted for 10 minutes straight. I don't have to sit here and be disrespected on national TV. Joy rolled her eyes. Oh, for heaven's sake. But Gwen was already stepping away from the table, her heels clicking against the stage floor. The audience was caught between stunned silence and shocked chatter. As she reached the edge of the set, Gwen glanced back over her shoulder, not at Joy, but at the audience. Thank you for having me, she said, her voice cool and final. To everyone else here, good luck. Then she disappeared behind the curtain. The moment she was gone, the studio felt like it had just exhaled after holding its breath too long. Joy sipped her coffee like nothing had happened. Whoopi stared at the camera with a look that said, "Well, that's daytime TV for you." The director's voice cut sharply through the stage mics. "We're going to break. Roll the commercial. Now." The screen faded to a bright detergent ad, leaving millions of viewers at home wondering if they'd just witnessed one of The View's most unforgettable meltdowns. Backstage, the air felt heavier than the hot lights out front. Gwen stood against the wall, her silver jacket glinting under the dim studio hallway lights, her chest rising and falling fast. Her publicist rushed over, voice low but urgent. "Gwen, are you okay?" "I'm fine," Gwen said, but her voice was tight. "I'm just done. I'm not going back out there." A production assistant hovered nervously nearby, holding a headset. The producers wanted to know if there's any chance you'd finish the segment. They said they could keep it light, talk about the album." Gwen shook her head sharply. "Not after that. No way. I'm not going to sit there and smile while someone disrespects me for entertainment." Down the hall, she could still hear the muffled voices of the live broadcast. They'd gone to commercial, but soon the world would see whatever came next. Meanwhile, on set, Joy was leaning back in her chair, sipping from her coffee mug like she hadn't just detonated a segment. "Well," Joy said into the awkward quiet, "I guess that's one way to end an interview." The audience gave an uneasy laugh. Whoopi, clearly trying to keep things professional, turned to the camera. "We'll be right back, folks. Stick around." When the commercial break ended, Joy addressed it with a shrug. "Hey, it's The View, not The Agree. We ask tough questions. Some people like it, some people walk off." That single sentence was enough to light a fire online. By the time Gwen left the building, her phone was buzzing nonstop. Twitter was already flooded with clips of the walk-off, some slowed down for dramatic effect, others set to pop music for memes. Hashtags like #TeamGwen and #TeamJoy started trending within an hour. Fans rallied behind Gwen. Greater than Joy was totally out of line. Gwen handled it like a queen. "This is why I stopped watching The View. They bring people on just to tear them down." But Joy's defenders were just as vocal. Greater than, it's an interview, not a PR puff piece. If you can't answer questions, don't come on the show. Joy was just doing her job. Gwen overreacted. Entertainment blogs churned out headlines. Gwen Stefani storms off The View, after heated exchange. Joy Behar's latest on-air clash sparks fan war. By evening, news outlets had reached out to both Gwen's team and ABC for statements. Gwen's representative issued a short, pointed message. Greater than, Gwen was invited to discuss her music. She chose to remove herself from a conversation that became unnecessarily personal and disrespectful. Joy, meanwhile, doubled down on social media, tweeting simply, "Greater than, it's called The View, not The Agree. You're welcome."